I'm Jer Stays, and on your Daily Detroit for Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, we're talking about Ukraine. And when you watch what's happening there, it might seem frustrating. So what can we do individually from here? Today, I talk with a man helping out his family and fellow Ukrainians from right here in Metro Detroit. He's part of a project called Dete.org. That's Ukrainian for, where are you? A question millions are asking right now. So let's get started after I give a huge thank you to Philippe for supporting our work at buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. You are a gentleman and a scholar. If you'd like to join him, buymeacoffee.com/dailydetroit. It'll really help out. Where are you? That is a question that many people around the world, and specifically in Ukraine, are asking, considering everything that's happening. And to help answer that question, there is a new thing out, and in part, it is put together by somebody from Metro Detroit, and I'm here to talk to that person now. Adrian Kwitkowsky, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. I wish it was under better circumstances, but what an amazing project. Can you talk about this app, what it means, and kind of how it came together?
So I'm of Ukrainian heritage. I was born here, but my grandparents came here when they were escaping World War II. So my parents actually got here when they were 7 and 2 or something like that. So I was obviously brought up Ukrainian. At the time, they actually, the reason the Ukrainian diaspora here in the Detroit area and in the States in general is so focused on Ukraine and Ukrainian stuff is because at the time, when they were escaping, they didn't know if there would still be a Ukraine. So when they arrived here, they built churches and schools and credit unions and cultural centers and all that stuff. They really built a big infrastructure, and they focused on making sure that we learned the Ukrainian language and the culture and the heritage. And for a long time, actually, everything was great. But it seems like that's becoming more and more useful again, in recent times. Basically, based on that, I've obviously paid very, very close attention to what's going on overseas. We have quite a bit of family there as well that we've been in contact with on a daily basis in different parts of the country, some actually in the military, some just hiding and trying to survive. Since we were following all this stuff very closely, kind of kept my ear to the ground and heard about some people who are trying to help in whatever way they can from around the entire world. So several of us got together and we identified a need, and that was that there's no way to kind of centrally track or report or find missing persons because of the war. I think the refugee number right now is, I think it just crested 2 million or something.
It's only going to go larger. Yeah.
A lot of people over there might not have a place to go back to. Also, there might not be reliable cell phone service because some people, when we talk to them about the project, they're like, well, if I'm lost, I'll just call my family. It's like, well, I mean, that's the best case scenario. You have a reliable cell service. You still have your phone. You still have a way to charge it. That's awesome. What we built is just another layer of insurance. It's kind of like an insurance policy. You don't want to use it, but it's really nice to have it when it's there, right? So we built an ultra low resource website. And when I say that for the IT geeks out there, I mean, this would load super fast on AOL, on dial-up. The whole website is like under 100 kilobytes. It's fantastic because, again, low coverage, bad internet. We wanted to make sure it's accessible. The premise behind it is it's ultra simple, right? Keep it simple, stupid type of mentality here. It's got 2 buttons for now. We're planning a third, but that's a different discussion. And one of them says, hey, I'm lost. And you can put in whatever information you want, right? The first name and last name are the only required fields. Everything else is up to you. Do you want to leave a phone number, an email, a message, right? We do have a disclaimer that reminds people, hey, this is a publicly searchable database, so please be mindful of what you post. If you've got some crazy ex-boyfriend that's going to look for you, maybe don't give them exactly where you should go. But the point is, someone's going to be looking for you. This is a great place to go there. And let them, even if you don't want people finding you, let them know you're okay. Hey, Mom, I made it to Poland. I'm fine. We'll get in touch later, right? And then it works on the opposite side of, hey, you have people missing. You go there, you click the second button. I'm looking for someone. You type in their first name and last name. If there are any hits in the database, it gives you whatever information that person chose to reveal. And that's that. We're keeping it super, super simple right now just to make sure that it's effective and usable, and then slowly rolling out future iterations to include more functionality and stuff like that. So.
But keeping it light is something that is beautiful and so important. We are so lucky in the West to have all the bandwidth and all the things that we have. But when you're dealing with a war zone, you're dealing with a conflict area, you never know, how long someone's going to have somewhere, or if they're going to be somewhere where there's like some sort of terminal that they could get to the internet to and be able to say, hey, here's where I'm at. And they might only have a few minutes. And I mean, even if you've seen, and I know you have, but if listeners have seen the throngs, the crush of people into places like Poland and other nearby countries, the resources are strained. And so being able to kind of send a flare up and go, hey, I'm alive. I mean, that just makes the biggest difference in the world.
We were very, very mindful of the resources building this. And by we, I've functioned in an operational capacity. I'm a native Ukrainian speaker, so I've helped with translation and stuff. I've been reaching out to people over there. The programmers deserve most of it. I can't write code to save my life. So when I say we, I mostly mean them. They spent so much time and effort shaving off 1 KB here, 1 KB there. Let's optimize the logo so that it's super low resource. Because again, not only is a lot of Ukraine very rural, so the internet there has been spotty to begin with. But as you mentioned, when people congregate in large areas, imagine sometimes even here in the States, if there's too many people in a stadium and they're all trying to Snapchat stuff from the concert, sometimes bandwidth becomes strained, right? Because we can only handle so much throughput. So we made sure to make it ultra low resource to not only assist those that are in rural areas with poor signal and poor access, but also to those who are kind of congested in these refugee areas so that they can still kind of, like you mentioned, toss that flare up there. Wanted to make it super easy for them.
And, there's been talk of things like Elon Musk and Starlink and all kinds of stuff like that. But the reality is that any sort of, satellite internet, the Russians, to be very honest, will stop at nothing to find and trace down people. And sometimes you only have so much time and then you have to move on or move that unit, or I think I want to impart on people. And I mean, I know you're from the area. In my previous life, I've worked around this area in the Baltics. This is something where this is an imminent danger zone. This is total warfare. And when you're in that situation, everything changes.
So it is complete war, right? So sometimes it's difficult for us in the West to kind of place ourselves in the situation because we've been fortunate enough to live reasonably stable lives. Like we can complain about, this or that inconvenience or whatnot, but, we don't have shelling happening in our neighborhoods, thankfully here. So to put a little bit of perspective on what you just mentioned, there have been, right before the war, right before the invasion, the Ukrainians started noticing in their various towns on the street, like red or white X's painted with circles around them and stuff. And these popped up all over Ukraine. And everyone's like, what is this? This is so weird. And it turned out that, well, at least intelligence service believes that these were the Russians kind of driving through town ahead of time, planning, either where they're going to be going or leaving marks for bombardment, or whatever. So what people have started doing is they also started, they started painting over those things to help. But there have been instances where they're saying, hey, everyone, turn off location services on your phone because, Russians can use triangulation with cell phone towers to kind of see where there's large groups of people and go there. There are another perfect example that's very kind of, visceral for the listener is one of our family members, our cousin. She is in Ivano-Frankivsk, which is a city on the western side of Ukraine. That they just started getting some bombings there, but she is stuck in the hospital because she's a high-risk pregnancy. And at night, they have to turn off the lights so that they're not bombed at night because they need to be less of a target to people, So you do have to be very mindful of your location and how much signal you're giving. It's basically a mess, right? Again, like I mentioned earlier, it's so hard for us to kind of imagine being in that situation because we're fortunate enough to live stable lives here, but it's kind of rough.
How are you doing emotionally? It's got to have been a very tough few weeks for you.
Yeah, it's been difficult. So I had the fortunate to be born here, but my wife's actually from Ukraine. She's been here for about 16 and a half years. The vast majority of her family is there. And, every day we're like, okay, let's give them a call on FaceTime. Hopefully we'll get a connection, or hopefully we can reach out to them. We do have friends who also have family out there, and they haven't been able to reach them for a week and a half or two. And a lot of times when you don't have the ability to connect with them, either because of infrastructure or because there's no one else to call, you're literally just sitting and waiting. Like, hey, maybe they'll reach out to me, maybe they won't. I don't know. So thankfully for us, everyone's been safe so far. And we can make contact with them. We can send them some money to try and help them out. But not everyone is as lucky.
Can you give listeners some sort of idea of the size and impact of the Ukrainian community? I know that sometimes people don't get an idea, if they're not in a community, just how impactful they are.
So, the other day, the Ukrainian Crisis Committee here in Metro Detroit organized kind of a protest. Not really a protest, it's a rally protest, whatever you want to call it. Down in Hart Plaza, we had thousands of Ukrainians show up from Metro Detroit. A lot of us who come from Ukraine obviously have some, there's a language barrier, so a lot of them go into transportation. They drive trucks. So we had lots of trucks, semi-trucks driving through downtown, honking and stuff with flags and support, not to be confused with the other trucker convoy.
I wondered where all those trucks came from. Okay, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so they some friends of mine helped organize that. There were over 100 semis kind of driving around everywhere, but it was a respectful just show of support. No one's, blocking traffic or any kind of stuff. But a lot of those people do move into the transportation industry because it's reliable. And there's no need as much to kind of really get fluent with the language. So they were there when we had thousands of people. And Detroit isn't even one of the larger diasporas like Chicago, New York, Toronto. They have significantly higher numbers than here. And people are turning out, and not even here, but all over the world. There were tens of thousands that in Germany that came out to rally. It seems like this is kind of helping pull people together, in my opinion. But there's a lot of us.
If people are listening to this and they want to help and they want to support in some way, whether it's what you worked on or things in general, what would your suggestions be as somebody who is a part of this community?
That's actually a great question. So there's plenty of stuff going around, plenty of fundraisers. One of the things that you kind of need to keep in mind is that Ukraine is under attack right now, right? And while they will need humanitarian aid whenever this is over, but it's hard to get them aid right now, right? So you can donate to a lot of places, but you never know when that fundraiser is going to end, when those people are actually going to send the money over. We just spoke with some people over in Ukraine. Actually, one of Ukraine's biggest, most renowned pop stars has become like a de facto ambassador for us. I reached out to her because I had the opportunity to perform with her like 7 or 8 years ago. And I say, hey, by the way, we made this thing. And she's like, oh my gosh, we were just sitting around the table trying to figure this out. She's now going out and telling all these people, like, hey, listen, we need help, but we need it now, right? That's the tough part, because you can donate to the Red Cross, fantastic. You can donate to UNICEF, or you can donate to whoever. But some of these fundraisers I've seen on Facebook, as an example, have been going on for 3 or 4 weeks now. Don't forget that fundraising number keeps going up and up and up, but that means none of that money has gotten into Ukraine yet to help, right? Plus, there's the 5 to 7 business days to get transferred and all this other stuff. So she's like, we need help now. So the best thing to do is, if you can find your local Ukrainian person, I know that sounds silly, but ask them if they have family there, right? And then see if you can just wire the money to them directly. As an example, my wife's family, part of it's in the military. Instead of donating to some sort of organization, we figured out a way through Western Union to donate specifically to that group of guys in the, let's just call it like a platoon of people. And the money was in their account like 15 minutes later, and the guy wrote back, he's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Thank you. We were out of supplies. We didn't have socks. We didn't have underwear. We didn't have diesel. We didn't have anything. And 15 minutes later, it was already making an impact, right? But that's also kind of difficult to do for most people, find your local Ukrainian. So I think one of the easiest ways to do it is some friends of mine set up a website. It's called the Ukrainian American Crisis Response Committee of Michigan, and that's uacrisisresponse.org. And they have a lot of really good resources for donation. Some of it goes for medical supplies, some of it goes for humanitarian. But that's probably the best place to kind of just point people locally as a centralized place. So that's uacrisisresponse.org.
Now, as to your project, if listeners want to share it, know more, take a look at it, where can they go?
So our project is dety.org. That's D-E-T-Y. Dete in Ukrainian means where are you? So we wanted, we wanted to make it memorable, easy to think of. We're working on getting our .ua, but that's actually a more complicated process. You can't just buy a .ua. So for right now, it's dety.org. Not really much you can do there unless you're looking for someone, but we do appreciate anyone sharing it because at the end of the day, regardless of how much work or how much cost is involved in this, if we can reunite one family, that's definitely going to make it worth it. So if you can just share it, eventually maybe someone somewhere who needs it will see it. Someone in the States who has family over there, or whatnot. For us right now, the biggest thing is just sharing. We're paying for this all out of pocket. There's nothing in it for us, so we're not trying to sell you some Amazon affiliate links or whatever. It's just trying to get the word out there. Trying to do some good.
I think for a lot of people, they see what's happening and they feel powerless. And I'm so glad that you're able to share a few ways that people can start to do something. And even if it is just sharing out the website, dety.org. And I do appreciate you, Adrian Kwitkowsky. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And we are done for today. My apologies for missing the show yesterday. A pair of family emergencies had to be handled. As you can hear, we're back on track and a dog is on the mend. Thanks for listening. I'm Jer Stays. Remember, you are somebody. To take care of each other, and I'll see you around Detroit.